This woman was hanging a scarf when she happened to notice a long strand of hair on her scarf. On closer inspection, a blonde hair. 2. It was clear that it hadn't fallen out by itself. The scarf had been handed to her by her husband at work in the morning. This incident had affected her ability to work for the rest of the day. At the end of the day, having just dropped off a patient, the woman notices the scarf on the door again. She picks up the long blonde hair and thinks about it. After work, she goes straight to pick up her son from school. She sees her husband's secretary picking up the child as well. At that moment, she notices that the single mother had the same color of blonde hair. She thought she might have been paranoid. At the end of the day, the couple are having a dinner with friends. They were laughing and talking together. Everything seemed very natural. After sending the friends away, the woman sees her husband's mobile phone on the table. She quietly picks it up and prepares to look at it. But the moment she opens it, she saw the family photo on the screen. She hesitates, so she turns off the light and left with her coffee. After a while, she suddenly turns back. She picks up her husband's phone again and checks it. The next day, at work, she discusses it with her best friend. She suspected that her husband was having an affair because her husband kept telling her that he was off duty at 7:30 p.m. But yesterday she met her husband's secretary who said that her husband's secretary came to pick up the children at 5 p.m. In the intervening 2.5 hours, she didn't know what her husband was doing. So today she left work half an hour early and drove her car to park secretly near her husband's flat. Shortly afterwards, she saw her husband coming out of work with a bouquet of flowers in his hand. The woman followed him all the way to the suburbs. It turned out that her husband had come to see her mother in a suburban nursing home. The woman pushes the door open and walks in too, pretending not to know that her husband had come to see her. The man says he comes here every day after work to visit. This made her regret her paranoia, but as she prepares to leave, the list of visitors to the home catches her attention. She looked through the list and found that her husband's name had not been on it for nearly 6 months. Clearly, her husband had lied to her. She went back to the car. She looks at her husband in the house. She thought about it. This woman was in her husband's office and searches for a cute little hat. The woman is instantly devastated. At that moment, the husband's secretary suddenly opens the door. Foster calmly stuffed the little hat back into the bag and makes sure that the bag belongs to the secretary. At the end of the day, Foster's husband takes Foster to the leader's house for a party. By coincidence, the leader's wife is one of Foster's patients. She also has blonde hair. At this point, Foster sees the leader's wife in close contact with her husband and thinks about it. Foster finds an excuse to go out for a breather. She happens to bump into one of her patients, Betty. Foster talks to her about the incident. She suspects that her husband is having another relationship with the leader's wife, so Betty decides to help her follow the man. She follows the man's car all the way to a secluded villa. The man took a bag out of the trunk. He went straight into the villa. After a while, Betty saw the man kissing a woman from a distance. She called Foster and told him. Foster asked her to take a picture, but it was too far away to see the blonde woman, so Betty took a picture of the woman's license plate number and found out the owner's information through a police officer friend. The owner of the car was the leader's wife. Foster was incredulous when he heard the name because the leader's wife was not as pretty as his own. As she was leaving, Betty told Foster that maybe if you look in your husband's trunk and you will find the answer. The next day, waiting for her husband's 40th birthday party, Foster used the excuse of looking for earrings to get the keys to her husband's car. As she was about to search the car, she sees the leader's family who have just arrived. Her determination to search the car is reinforced. Finally, in the hidden compartment of the trunk, Foster found a suspicious backpack. This woman took advantage of her husband's lack of attention to surreptitiously check the trunk of the car. She found a suspicious backpack in the compartment of the spare wheel. Inside, she found a mobile phone. When she opened the phone, she saw her husband was holding a young girl on the screen who was the leader's eldest daughter. Foster also found a picture of a friend on the phone and a text message from her best friend at the clinic. At this point, Foster breaks down. She grabbed her surgical scissors towards the people at the party. It felt like everyone was lying to her. At this point, Foster, who had not yet recovered, was greeted with a public confession from her husband. The woman is not impressed. She knows it's all a lie. The leader's daughter is even more unsettled by this. But after all, she is in the dark and dared not say anything. Back home, she cried alone in her room until her best friend comes to the house. Foster pokes her nose in. She asks her best friend why she's hiding something from her husband. She said, "He said he would fix it and make it right. He said he would fix it and make it right." Foster didn't say anything more. The next morning, Foster acted as if nothing had happened. It was as if nothing had happened. When she arrived at the hospital, she told her girlfriends that, for the sake of the baby, she couldn't bear the thought of breaking the news. And just then, leader's daughter came to the hospital of her own accord to see Foster for a checkup. After the examination, Foster finds out that the leader's daughter is pregnant. When she returned home, Foster approached her husband to talk to him. At this point, she humbly said to her husband that, "Even if you have cheated on me, I still love you, but you have to be honest with me." And the man thought for a moment and then, "I didn't." Foster's defenses were instantly broken.